Hi everyone, my name is Martin Guiracocha. Today, I'll be analyzing the Black Mirror episode Nosedive through the lens of Foucault's concept of biopower. Here is my take on the episode if you have not seen it yet. Nosedive takes place in a world where all interactions are measured on a 5-star scale. The focus of this episode is on how your score can determine the place that you live in, the job that you can get, and the car rental that you can have. Lacey, the main character in this episode, as she becomes obsessed with raising her score so that she can move into a luxury apartment complex. But as the episode develops, the score begins to fall. So then all the different practices from Lacey are not going to be helped in the end. So the question that I want to ask is, how does biopower help us see what is happening in our daily lives and what's around us? Let's jump into the theory. Biopower, a modern form of authority that does not need violence or force to rule over people. Instead, it uses our habits, bodies, and desires to make regulations that adjust our lives. In comparison to older forms of power, where rulers had to punish or take life away, biopower makes and encourages people to regulate themselves. Instead of being told what to do, we learn the rules and discipline ourselves so that everyone follows at a certain expectation. Keep in mind that when we are combining biopower and technology, rating systems, algorithms, social media are just some of the examples that we see in modern society, which incentivizes us to constantly measure ourselves, compare ourselves, and even self-grade. This is the exact dramatization that Nosedive provides us with on an episode that puts social acceptance at a higher scale. We are going to look at a couple of different scenes where Lacey, the main character, shows some examples of biopower. On the opening scene, she can be seen practicing her smile and her laughter. If you see in this picture that 4.2, that's her rating and the score that she has at the beginning of the episode. As we move on to the different slides, we'll see her rating go down. She's trying to make it look as authentic as possible to achieve that good rating. In accordance with biopower, she's molding her body, the tone of voice, and the posture that will help her blend in or stand out for better ratings. The environment has shown that the characteristics are necessary to maintain and achieve that higher rating. The next scene we are going to discuss is when Lacey is trying to book a rental car after her flight got canceled, and in order for her to stay in a waiting list, she needed to be at a certain score. There is a fallout between the teller and Lacey, which ends up in a fine towards Lacey, where she gets digged down a couple of points for not having the best scene in public. We get to see in order for her to utilize the express check-in line at the car rental place after the airport incident, that she needed to be at a higher score than a 4.2. And if you can see in my left picture here, when she gets her car and eventually breaks down middle way, she's already down to a 2.8. So her check-in time would have been a little bit faster, and maybe she would have gotten a better car if she would have had a better score. To make things worse, she could have a better car, but unfortunately, due to her low score, she had to pick from, I would say, low class cars from the lot. To tie it all together, we can see how institutions can regulate their metrics so that the people at certain levels get access and opportunities. It's not only about your social reputation anymore. Biopolitical regulations come into play where any industry can set their regulations and control our resources and life events through data. We are going to close my analysis with the last scene of Lacey arriving to her friend's wedding. This entire episode was a build up to where Lacey was doing everything she could for that approval and for those higher ratings. Her last big chance at a higher rank was at her friend's wedding, where a lot of high ranking members could spike her up into the next level. All her training and life modifications come crashing down as it didn't help her in the end. Since she doesn't do what her practice was and ends up doing the complete opposite, she ends up in a spiral out of control situation where she is screaming and does a public performance that was not deemed appropriate. She lived in a way where she would perform for likes and acceptance, but in the end, the psychological toll of biopower shows us that the metrics and the individuality are not there. The episode Nosedive is powerful in the sense that we can all relate, and how it provides similarities to our daily lives. Our world may not run like Lacey's, where every single interaction counts, but we can admit we all look for those likes, the followers, and the ratings of any kind. It makes us think how many times we had to rewrite our ex post or message, or had to fix or take down a photo because we all know that we are being watched and judged by the things that we post online. We are a part of biopower, and we don't even realize where technology is encouraging us to regulate ourselves. We can resonate with this episode as we participate in similar ways with the social system. To wrap up this analysis, using Foucault's concept of biopower, Nosedive shows us how technology influences our decisions and behaviors, sometimes without us even realizing. How society is on a constant change, and while we continue to search for that acceptance, We are following our system of discipline, which allows bigger institutions the power to use these instances for different ratings to regulate our opportunities in life. The episode ultimately asks us, are we living on a similar metric to nosedive? In a world where scores, ratings, and followers matter, how much of this is free will? And eventually, how much of this behavior has shaped our surroundings? Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.